My sincere appreciation goes to the President, the government, and the people of the Republic of South Africa for their warm welcome, gracious hospitality, and excellent arrangements. I also want to express our gratitude and pleasure at seeing the young men and women who work on fire parading so proudly. And also to add that I'm told that this country, South Africa, has the highest number of women working on fire in the world. Excellencies, the theme of addressing climate change through sustainable forest management is timely, since the global community is working on finalizing an important global processes with far-reaching consequences on the sustainable management of world forests and resources. The expected adoption of Sustainable Development Goals and the anticipated agreement on climate change at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP21 in Paris, at the end of this year are beacons of hope to squarely put forests and the resources and services they provide in the development context. I trust that this Congress will provide further insights and opportunities as the global community concludes these landmark agreements. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Union attaches a high premium to forests. Forests constitute one of the most ancient and most important habitats for humans and our precious wild flora and fauna. They constitute a resource of livelihood in terms of fruit and food, as well as wood for construction, just to mention a few vital uses. They also constitute catchment areas for many of our invaluable rivers and lakes, which are key sources of fish and means of transportation, in addition to them being tourist destinations. Our forests are considered amongst the 3 lungs of the world because of their sequestration of carbon from the atmosphere. This is a significant contribution by Africa to global solutions to climate change. Indeed, forests are recognized as indispensable in adapting to, mitigating the negative impacts of climate change and desertification. In light of these opportunities, challenges, and prospects, the African Agenda 2063 portrays a continent whose forests and other natural resources are sustainably managed for the inclusive growth and shared prosperity of all Africans. Africa is taking bold steps in mainstreaming into the planning and development matrices aspects of sustainable natural resource management. The June 2014 summit of the African Union called for the elaboration of the Continental Sustainable Forest Management Framework, which will provide a vision and direction for forest management in Africa for the coming decades. Work on this draft framework has started in earnest, thanks to our partnership with FAO, the African Forest Forum, and other partners. Forests and woodlands in Africa occupy an estimated 650 million hectares, 21% of the land area of our continent. This accounts for 16.8% of global forest cover. Many of the forests are severely fragmented due to the encroachment of an expanding human population, human activities such as agriculture and urbanization. We must therefore explore sustainable means for the necessary expansion and human activities. The exploration of sustainable means ought to pay particular attention to the reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Africa, with the second largest contiguous block of forest in the world, stands to benefit a lot from this mechanism, provided we put in place the right institutional and policy frameworks. Whilst per capita forest ratio in Africa is close to the world average, 0.185 per hectare per person, the deforestation rate is 4 times the world average at nearly 1% a year. This is a serious challenge for the continent. We therefore hope that the holding of the 14th World Forest Congress in Africa will be a watershed moment in stimulating political support and partnership on forest conservation, preservation, and development. This forum provides for us a reflective window of opportunity so that together we can explore pertinent challenges and strategies. In developing these strategies in relation to Africa, I would suggest that we utilize Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, as a contextual canvas. Of importance to this is that Agenda 2063 and its first 10-year implementation plan contains the principal adaptation processes and strategies to maintain healthy ecosystems, preserve the African natural environment. This forum, therefore, could have not come at a better time for us, and the theme of the conference is pertinent to fine-tuning these plans in relation to mitigation and adaptation to climate change. From our perspective, sustainable forest management is a sine qua non for addressing climate change and building resilient communities and nations. For us and the world, forests are important in determining the accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. African forests store about a quarter of this total. However, this great storage capacity also means that when we cut down the trees, the impact is disastrous. Deforestation accounts for nearly 20% of all greenhouse gas emissions. At the same time, the capacity of the forest to act as a carbon sink is decreased as forests are lost and degraded. The effect of this degradation are also beginning to impact on our coastal forests, which are known to help reduce risk from disasters relating to climate extreme and sea level rise and coastal flooding. Consequently, our foremost management strategies must also complement our strategies that relate to the ocean and waterways. This forum must therefore assist us in elaborating on practical mechanisms for sustainable land and coastal forest management in such a manner that it may assist us to deliver a range of livelihood and environmental benefits that help both people and the ecosystem adapt to climate change. In this end, these strategies must facilitate the uplifting of people who live in poverty and hunger, because everything that we do must also relate to improving the livelihoods of the people who live in those areas. It is also important for this forum to note that the majority of the malnourished global citizens reside in Africa. Thus, sustainable forest management ought to address the need for nutrition and food security. Much of the expansion witnessed in the agricultural sector over the last decade occurred through encroachment into forests. This has been compounded by urban phenomena such as expenditure, which often has people unnecessarily replacing luxury goods like furniture, thus leading to the cutting of more trees. Of course, we must also get into technology. I shouldn't be using paper reading this speech. I should be using technology to save cutting trees. These have led to the intensification of the problem of deforestation, soil erosion, and general environmental degradation, leading to widespread desertification on the continent. Deforestation triggered escalating demand for food, luxuries, and fuel, is degrading the ecosystem, diminishing water availability, especially for the poor. We must therefore find more technologically sound mechanisms to meet these needs and necessities. To mitigate these effects, we must encourage the growing of trees and protect the soil and regulate water, microclimates. Projects such as Trees for Africa and those that intend to reforest the Sahel region require all of our support, as they have also shown that crops grown in agroforestry systems are more resilient to drought, excess rainfall, and extreme temperature fluctuations. Honorable delegations, by encouraging reforestation and sustainable utilization of forests, we can also increase the food security of rural households. Forests are also a major source of grazing for domestic animals. The animals form an important component for food security and alleviation of poverty, especially amongst the rural population. The ultimate goal should be the eradication of poverty, which will require all of us to embark on a path of inclusive growth. Currently, our forests account for between 6 and 8% of the GDP in Africa, the highest proportion in the world. In Central and West Africa, the forest sector contributes more than 60% of the gross domestic product through export of timber products. Africa's wood production, including round wood and fuel wood. This increased from 340 million cubic meters in 1980 to 699 million cubic meters in 2000. However, the forest, like all our natural resources, is not an infinite resource, and so we must, as advocated by Agenda 2063, encourage the diversification of our economies as we pursue the sustainable inclusive growth. But reforestation must also form part of the diversification of our economies. Our growth path will also place added pressure on our energy sources. Fast-growing species of tree and woody shrubs can provide biomass or biofuel for heating and power generation. It is therefore urgent that we must pursue sustainable ways of using biomass fuel and also efficient cooking stoves and alternate sources of energy such as solar, wind, and geothermal. We also know that the forests and woodlands of Africa are home to a large variety of flora and fauna species, many of which are endemic to the continent and are under increasing threat from the population explosion. A key area of global concern for biodiversity conservation in Africa is the seemingly insatiable demand for ivory and rhino horns on the global market, which is fueling an unprecedented decimation of our major and iconic wildlife like elephants and black rhino. The illegal trade in wildlife prompted the African Union to call for serious measures at all levels to curb the trade in wildlife products. Ladies and gentlemen, the sustainable management of forests and forest ecosystem has a direct bearing also on peace and security on our continent. Insurgents or militant groups or rebels often use illegally exploited forest products such as timber and fuel wood to finance their activities. The trade in timber and wildlife is a classical example, which is supporting the proliferation of arms on the continent, thereby undermining our peace and development efforts. We therefore need to strengthen forest governance structures at all levels, enhance regional collaboration on forest resource management, to enhance our surveillance capabilities, to track and halt the activities of these destructive groups. The fact that forests often traverse national boundaries means that they have the potential to nurture regional cooperation and promote peace and peaceful coexistence amongst countries. With forest and forestry being an important part of the agricultural sector where women are active players, Africa must continue to mainstream gender equality and strengthen the role of women in forest-related projects and programs. 75% of farm workers on the continent are women. So modernizing agriculture by providing new technologies and irrigation and making the agricultural land more productive will decrease the demand of more land and destruction of forests in order to increase agricultural production. Empowering women and youth in the forestry sector can create significant development opportunities and generate important spillover benefits for their household and communities, particularly in rural areas. Given their knowledge and roles in the forest and forestry sector, women need to be sufficiently represented in relevant institutions, accepted as stakeholders with specific opinions and interests, and empowered to have a say in the transformative decisions. Efforts to empower women in the forestry sector include advocating for and enacting good governance systems for biodiversity conservation. Provision of ecosystems and mitigation of climate change are now recognized as some of the important roles of forests and have become an integral component of sustainable forest management. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to say that Africa suffers from a wide range of challenges. These challenges are attributed to factors such as rapid population pressure, low investment, especially in alternate sources of energy, and weak public sector institutions and policies on forest resource management. Government actions, therefore, need to be intensified to change the trajectory to address these concerns. These actions include actively engaging the private sector, civil society, enhancing the role of women and youth in forestry. In so doing, we must also explore sustainable woodland resource management whilst also upscaling the capacities of public sector institutions that are responsible for forestry resource management. I therefore call upon the international community to step up support to ensure sustainable forest management in Africa. This is more so because our forests are important global resources, especially in the areas of climate change mitigation, in addition to their vital role in livelihoods. I would like also to take this opportunity to reiterate our appreciation to the strong partnership that we have with FAO in supporting forestry development in Africa. At the same time, I would like to use this platform to encourage FAO to do more in enhancing capacities to ensure the sustainable management of forests in Africa. I wish to also reaffirm the commitment of the African Union to advance the cause of promoting and protecting our treasurable forests. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dlamini-Zuma. The Congress, this conference, is held here in the Republic of South Africa, in the African soil, with a big portion on leadership of United Nations leading it. It is on the score that the Director General of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, Mr. José Graziano da Silva, who happened to be Director General of FAO, will come and address us. Director General.
Your Excellency Prince Laurent of the Kingdom of Belgium and Special Ambassador of FAO for Forest and Environment, Your Excellency Sinzeni Zokwana, Minister of Agriculture, Forest and Fishery of the Republic of South Africa, our host country, Your Excellency Madame Dlamini-Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency Minister of Water and Sanitation of the Republic of South Africa, Madame Nomvula Mokonyamni, Your Excellencies, Ministers, distinguished members of the podium and the Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by warmly thanking the government of the Republic of South Africa for hosting our Congress, the largest global gathering on forestry, being held on the African continent for the first time. I would like also to thank the hospitality of the people of this beautiful city of Durban, and thank the presence of the mayor on this opening section. I would also like to thank the Secretariat, the Master of Ceremony, and all the people that has been working behind the scene. The theme of this Congress, Forest and People, Investing in a Sustainable Future, points to a pressing global need. Many of the major challenges facing the world today came to the fore during recent negotiations on the post-15 development agenda. Chief among these is the need to eradicate hunger and poverty by 2030, while ensuring lasting protection for our planet's natural resources. Forests, which cover 1/3 of the world's land area, have a crucial role to play in the achieving of the Sustainable Development Goals to be adopted by the international community later this month in New York. We cannot meet our future challenge without preserving our forests. They are home to over 3/4 of the world's terrestrial biodiversity, which represent an irreplaceable genetic resource for the future development of our lives. Forests also support agriculture by keeping water catchments healthy, providing habitat for pollinators, and offering protection against climate extremes. When managed sustainably, they sequester carbon, thus mitigating the impacts of climate change. Millions of people depend on forests and on the plants and animals that live in them to meet their needs for food, energy, and shelter. Forests also generate employment, and they are the basis of millions of small enterprises that improve rural livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, the facts which I have just mentioned show us the critical importance of forests. Yet, if we want forests to continue to make these and other contributions to our planet, we must first of all ensure that forests have a future. In this context, we are launching today FAO latest Global Forest Research Assessment, the FRA 2015. These documents show us that the world's forests continue to shrink, with some 129 million hectares of forests lost since 1990. This area that we lost of forest is almost equivalent in size of this country, South Africa, just to give you an idea. But the document, which builds on existing data and is more comprehensive and reliable than ever before, also provides figures that must encourage us to step up our efforts to safeguard forests in a sustainable way. First of all, while the rate of net global deforestation continues positive, it has slowed down by more than half over the past 25 years. Despite we are using today more forest products than ever. In addition, an increasing amount of forest areas have come under protection, while more countries are adopting and improving sustainable forest management practices. We have been protecting our forests better. About 13% of the world's forests, more than 500 million hectares, an area larger than the territories of two largest African countries, Algeria and DRC, are now designated primarily for biodiversity conservation. According to the FRA 2015, Africa reports its highest increase in protected areas in the last 5 years. I want to compliment the ministers of Forest of Africa that attend this meeting. This is, no doubt, an extraordinary achievement. This is often done through legislation and includes the measuring and monitoring of forestry research. It also increasingly involves local communities in planning and developing policies to protect the environment and their natural resources. The report will be presented to you later today and will give more details on many other areas. One of the aims of this Congress is to build a new way of thinking and acting to ensure a vibrant future for forestry, forests, and the forest-dependent communities. Working together, we hope we can seize this opportunity. I wish you a fruitful week and debates. Thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the DG, we will announce the video that will be our hello and participation of the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. The video, please.
dance that you can't find anywhere in the world. It's purely South African.
Melting plastic and manipulating it into his desired image.
The whole idea was not just to do a normal portraiture, I wanted to do something that will tell a bit of story.
He may be gone, but Masondo's voice will continue to serenade music lovers for a long time.
Join Refula Muila on your one-stop art and entertainment show every Saturday on Afro Showbiz News at 7:30 p.m.
The judge slammed corruption in both the private and public sector. Referring to irregular and wasteful government expenditure, he said it could no longer go on.
The high-profile corruption scandal has dominated Spain's headlines in recent weeks. The scandal touching a nerve as Spain emerges from its downturn after a slew of corruption cases involving politicians and the king's sister.
Tourism is a vital part of the economy. It contributes about 5% to the country's GDP and is a significant contributor to various industries such as food production, retail and transport.
For all your business news, stay tuned to your favorite channel, SABC News, at 1 Monday to Friday.
Welcome back to AM News. What you just witnessed, of course, before the break was the 14th World Forestry Congress currently taking place in Durban, a very first for the African soil. Well, of course, we've seen speeches by the AU Commission Chairperson, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. We've seen Minister Bheki Cele, we've seen Minister Nomvula Mkonyane, as well as other delegates, including Mr. Jose Graziano de Silva, of course, in attendance. But for now, though, we're going to take a look at our headlines.